team that want to, be able to finish the season with some hardware, and that matters.
You can have one question. Still got a lot of people that want to ask questions. 4th row left, 20 German, Buckeye.
Ryan, obviously a lot going on, but with the possible move to Olympic 5 scholarships, what are you doing right now to plan for that? And could we see a 2025 class of 40 guys?
I mean, that's a pretty high number, but higher than maybe we're used to. Yeah, I think so. We are planning accordingly. I don't think any decisions have been made exactly how that is all going to shake out, but I think that I do believe we need 120 guys going into camp, and how that shakes out during the season, I think it needs to be decided. But that 120 number has been around for a long time. And, even just being out there in practice today, you saw us go to 2 fields. So every team period of, I guess, 12 to 15 minutes, we were getting 48 plays, and that matters. Getting young guys reps, and the first 4 days, that's where we're going to do it. The only way to do that is if you have 120 guys. So I think that's important. But in terms of planning, you're seeing us, add some guys in that maybe in the past, we wouldn't have signed this early. And I think that there's different, almost tiers now. You have certain guys, that are recruited at a certain level, and some other guys. And the best way I can kind of look at it is you kind of have the guys who, in 3 years are probably ready to go look at the NFL and make a decision. 3 guys or 3-year guys, some guys that can make early impacts. Other guys that are a little bit more developmental. It may take a couple of years in the program. Some of those, by the way, are our best players in Ohio State. So everyone's a little bit different in their journey for whatever reason. We want to bring in a mix of those guys into the program, but our number will be higher, and there will be a little bit more attrition than certainly in the past. So you have to be able to make up for that.
Right next door, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, you're talking about the end of the season. It's almost NFL-like with playoffs and whatnot. How much does it help that you have experience, Chip has experience, other guys have experience, Brian's played in the NFL, just to have that knowledge of what it's like to play in those playoffs and late season games to help in this first year?
Time will tell, but like you said, Tim Walton has been in the NFL for a long time, and you mentioned some of the other guys that have been there before. Certainly, Chip's been a head coach in the NFL, and I feel like there'll be a lot of input across the board as we get towards the end of the season and what that means schematically. We've already talked about what that means, a little bit in terms of our training and during the season, but I do think that experience should help because it will be different in how we approach it. But ultimately, football is still football. And I've been saying that too. Like, there has been a lot of changes. When you think about the way that the season's played out, you look at the way that our teams are designed nowadays. You look at even during the game, you have coach-to-player communication. We have tablets on the sideline. So there's a lot of things that are going on. But the truth is, football's still football. Like, that hasn't changed. And we can't lose focus on that. And that's what me and the preseason is all about. Like, all that other stuff goes to the side, put the football down, and let's see who can play with fundamentals and toughness. And so that's why we don't want to overdo it that way. There's still, so much, of the game that's the same that it's been for 50 years. And that's what we're focused on right now. As we get into the season, we'll make sure we make the adjustments that we think are appropriate.
Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
What are your thoughts on Tegra and what he looks like an NFL offensive lineman? What does he improve you guys to see the starting?
Well, I think the first thing is you show that you know what you're doing, and that's the first level of learning. Do you know what you're doing? I know it sounds simple, but you have to know your assignment's cold. There's a lot of preparation that goes with it. I think he's done that. And the second thing is, how to do it. And, the technique, the calls, there's so much that comes with, how to do your job. And then can you do it consistently over time? Tegra has shown that he can do it. He's shown that he knows what he's doing. The big question is now, after going through this preseason, he's changed his body. Somebody's had a good season, good off season. Mick's been, reports have come back good from, Mick does a great job of putting them in tough situations, creating conflict amongst the team, putting them in situations where when they get tired, they have to stay focused. Because we know we're going to wear teams down this year, win games in the fourth quarter, and if that's our goal, then we have to be able to do that, especially up front with the offensive line. If he can consistently show this preseason that he can do that, he's going to find himself in games.
Front row, Dennis Shaw, CBS Sports.
Ryan, when and how do you get used to transactional nature of the game in terms
I do think a couple of years in the NFL did help me with that, but it's not the NFL, it's different. There's still so much that comes with it. And, you still recruit, you don't draft, but there is part of the game that is changing in terms of that, and that's where I go back to, like, every season you almost have to rebuild. You have to rebuild your team, where in the past maybe it wasn't that way, but the way things are designed nowadays, you have to be flexible. And I think the easy thing to do is throw up your hands and say, well, this is just too much, I don't want to do it anymore. But I've used the analogy before, where I told this to certain folks, and I did my research about when they built Ohio Stadium 100 years ago. Like, at the time, people were like, "You got to be kidding me!" Like, over a 60,000 seat stadium, they thought college football was completely out of control. 100 years later, it's a different way. People are still saying the same type of thing. So I just think being steady in the boat and coming up with solutions. It's a great time to be a Buckeye. It's a great time to be at Ohio State. We're very well positioned. We've worked hard to be well positioned. We have to continue to be that way and be leaders in this space. We're fortunate to be in a place that can do that.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Right, even, started up with the offseason, started doing that,
Who was it? He wasn't here today because of an illness. Usually, again, I don't. But yeah, he was. We held him. Came in, checked in, but wasn't feeling right. So trainers decided to hold him today. We expect him to be back up tomorrow.
Bill Landis, the podcast, Kings of the North.
We talked so much about Fair Lions offseason, Memphis got a lot of good work. Day one, there's Cardinal thing, but it's on the radar, we're looking at a bunch of points. What kind of growth have you seen from Cardinal, and how is he going to help this offense this year?
Yeah, I think, again, the limit for Carnell is through the roof. I don't think there is a limit to what he can be. He is not someone that you typically hear, but you feel out there. And he takes a lot of pride in his route running. He's certainly gifted, but he's very. I think that's the first thing that I recognize when he got here. Like, a lot of precision in his route running. Takes pride in when he gets out there knowing exactly what he's doing. He comes in well prepared. He's tough. The guys in the team really like who he is. And he showed last year he can do it. So, he's going to have to be a major contributor for our offense this year if we're going to do what we want to do.
Third row middle, Dan Hope, Glenn Warrior.
Ryan, just following up on the scholarships, I think you guys have 5 extra scholarships available for this year. Have you decided what you're going to do for those scholarships for this year?
Yeah, we've kind of reallocated some of those. So, we are at limit right now. I'm not going to get into how that all played out, but yeah, we ended up getting to the limit and we allocated some of those out.
Third row right, Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Given so much newness in your offense, do you feel more pressed this year to come to a conclusion with that quarterback spot than you did last year, or is it just a matter of you decided what you decided, regardless of?
I mean, it has to happen. You can't force it, but yeah, ideally, we'd like to, have someone as a starter and then go into the season and get going with that. So, how that shakes out, I'm hoping that it happens in the first week to 10 days, but it's the same thing that happened last year. Like, I'd like for it to happen. It didn't. Even after the first couple of games, I didn't feel like it happened. And then it obviously got to the point, after we won the big game that was appropriate. But, we'll see how it shakes out. And I think all the guys are doing a good job. I think we're going to need them all, like I said. But, we'd like to have that done in the first couple of weeks.
Second row middle, Stephen Bean, Cleveland.com.
You guys had the split field thing last year too. You said there was some obviously cons to it as well. Why go with that about again this year?
Yeah, I think, like you saw, Simmons and Donnie in the same field together, and then you'll see, we'll mix and match a little bit because that might have to happen during the season. But for the first 4 practices, I think it's a great way to get quarterbacks a lot of reps, get everybody out there, get moving around, and you're getting 48 reps in a shorter period of time. So it's a great way to get everybody moving around, and first 2 practices we're not in, we're not in pads anyway, so it's really hard to identify what's going on with the offensive line. Pads on. I mean, you can go in the right direction, but there's very little contact. It's all hands and feet. So, more importantly, we're getting reps for the quarterback. We're getting reps for everybody on the team in a shorter period of time, a little bit more efficient. Like you said, I guess the negative would be you're not always going to go against the one on the other side, but we have the rest of the camp for that. We have 25 practices.
Fourth row right, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Ryan, if you look at your running back group, is the depth, or I guess lack thereof, kind of really show itself there? And are you guys concerned already in day one that's something you're gonna have to manage?
I was going back and thinking about, when we've had really like 5 running backs in that room, I really couldn't come up with very many times we had that many anyways. We have come up with some contingency plans in place, something were to happen, but I think, the bottom line is like James and Sam got to do a great job. We got to be able to put those guys in the game, and I think that's really important. And then, there's, a few other guys in that room that hopefully can, step into some roles there like, TC did. I mean, nobody really knew what TC was that year. He became a guy that we felt comfortable putting in the game, late in the game. But, so we'll see. We got 6 guys in that room and we'll go from there. But if we can be 4 deep there and stay healthy, then I think we'll be great. Certainly, if you start taking injuries, then, puts more stress on the room. We expected to have 5, and it was a really freak situation with TC. Just kind of was going over a bag and ended up tearing his ACL, which was, unfortunate. So, and it happened so close to camp, there wasn't much we could do to replace him. So the guys understand that. Carlos will do a great job getting those guys ready. But yeah, I mean, we can't waste any time with the young guys. They got to step up and get ready to get in the game.
All right, Austin Ward, podcast about the eyes.
You said last week you wanted to stop talking so much about the eyes and actually play the game. Do you think you can make it?
I'm gonna try. I don't want to, put too much out there, but he had a great offseason. He did some things that, some freshmen haven't done before in terms of recognition and some of the hard work he's put in. And you talk about the humility of the young man, as talented as he is, it's special. We're excited that he's out there every day, and we're all excited about it. But again, I don't want to get too far out in front of this one, but it's going to be, he's got a very bright future.
Court made his retirement public yesterday. So I've been in works for a while. What were those conversations like? Was he meant to the program, and will there be some role for him moving forward?
Yeah, Court, when he first got here, you recognized very easily and very fast how disciplined he was. He was one of the first guys in the building, earned a leadership role on the team, but just, was just kind of decimated with injuries. And was strong in his faith, and it was very hard for him to step away. But he, even though he didn't get a chance to play on the field as much, he did have a great leadership role, similar to Cam Babb and what he did here. So a lot of the guys are going to miss him. He just went recently on an internship to NFL league office in New York. I know he's trying to figure out what's the next step for him, but yeah, he'll always be welcome here, and the guys look up to him.
Fifth row, Cameron Keith Robinson, the Athletic.
Ryan, you talk about Josh. It's finally he got a full spring with you guys. Just how much growth did you see with him, and for you, how much confidence do you have that you have both him and Donnie paired back together, kind of that experience?
I think it's important. Josh Simmons can do some things that most can't. He's very, very skilled and talented, and so we feel like the offseason was a difference maker for him. But time will tell, like a lot of these guys. But I think he's positioned himself with a good summer to be the best version of himself. Again, once we get going, we'll find out. But to think about where he was a year from now, I think we're light years away from that. And understanding schemes, schematics, day-to-day culture, what it takes to be a Buckeye. He's got a whole year under his belt that way. So we're going to need him to play great. And if we're going to reach our goal, we need him to be a huge contributor and be a big part of what we do.
We're in front of him, Dave Holmes, WSYS.
Ryan, when you're looking at so many different position battles, I'm curious, what's the dynamic like between you and your assistants? Because 100 guys out there, more than 100, you can only be so many places. I mean, how much do you lean on them? How much are you walking around observing? How does it work when you're trying to step that?
Well, we call them champions, and we have 3 different areas of champ. We have the winter, we have the summer, and then we have during the season. And you have to grade out over 80% to be a champion. You have to play over 15 plays. And the goal of every assistant coach in their unit is for their players to grade out the champion. It's the goal for their unit to be champions. And so ultimately it's their job. Like they're hired to do that. The first thing they do is take care of their family, their health, and their character. The next thing they got to do is recruit. The next thing is taking care of their unit to make sure that their guys are doing their part. And how do you do that? What makes your unit strong? First off is production. Then there's leadership, unselfishness. Well, if they're hired to do a job, like they got to do that, and then they got to pound their fist on the table and say, this is who I want. Now, ultimately, it's going to be my decision, but those guys are hired to do a job, and I'm going to let them do it. But as long as it's well thought out. But we have a very experienced group. We have a lot of guys who understand what it means. And certainly the coordinators have a big say in that. But that's it. I mean, does your group grade out champions? Does your group strong? And if you are, then you're doing your part in terms of all the 10 groups.
Right in front of them, Rob All or Columbus Dispatch?
We'll psychology 101. You've got some position groups, reserve, get high praise, wide receiver, DB. You've got one or more offensive line, take some heat, take some criticism. How do you deal with, how do you coach that differently? Deal with that differently, treat them differently going in?
Yeah, we say this, and I'll remind them as we get closer to the season that praise and criticism are the same thing. And you can get attention if you want, but it's really just someone else's opinion. Like what you are is when you press play, like that's who you are. And so your opinion or someone else's opinion, that's fine. That's their opinion. But when you press play, what are you putting on film? That's who you are. And so you challenge all those guys to say, like, what is your identity? I know what I want our team identity to be, and I told the team to be the hardest playing team in the country. Like that should be our identity, the hardest playing team. So when someone watches the Buckeyes this year, they should see that. And what do you want yourself to be? What do you want your unit to be? What do you want the offense and defense to be? Like those are all challenges that we've had this summer to our staff and to our players. And it doesn't matter what's happened in the past. It doesn't matter what someone else's opinion is. Like, what do you want it to be? And is it in the end? Like that's the challenge. So we know where we need to get better. We know guys that have done it before and put it on the field. And, so we got to find that right mix. But just because you've done it in the past, we've seen that before. We've seen guys who have great years come back and have clunker. Well, maybe you let rest on your laurels or you listen to people's opinions. And then you see other guys who maybe got criticized and they come back and have something to prove. That's good. Use it as a motivator. But I can only go on what I've seen this summer, and I've seen a great summer. But we know we got a long road ahead of us.
Third row left, Andy Andrews, 11 Warriors.
I don't think anyone's asked you about quarterbacks yet. What was your evaluation of how they performed today? Obviously very early in fall camp, but just how they
I thought our guys looked more fit. I think they looked stronger. I think they moved better from the spring. They just looked like they've had 3-4 months of work on their bodies. They just looked that way. They looked stronger. The ball came out more pace today. I thought they had a better understanding of the offense being out there for the first day. You saw us, in and out of the huddle. You saw us, signals. You saw us a couple different styles. So our guys have to learn how to say it in huddle, and that's something new. We haven't done a ton of that before, but there's something to that. And we're excited to be able to do that. And with the coach-to-player communication, the offensive line gets together. They talk before the play. The skill guys are there communicating with the down distances. When that quarterback walks in the huddle, he can look everybody in the eye and say the play, and then give them a little something before the play. And then you break the huddle as a group, get up to the line of scrimmage, you put your hand in the dirt, and you get after somebody. And I think that starts with the quarterback and being able to do that. I thought they had a good handle on that today. We walked in the huddle, we all broke the huddle, and we got up to the line of scrimmage. Now we're still going to change tempos up at times, but you have to be able to see and learn. You have to be able to listen and learn. And there's there's a couple different ways to do that when you're calling it from a huddle or when you're signaling. So we're doing that a bunch of different ways, and I thought they handled that well today. Just day one, but that part was good and had some good purpose on it.
Right next door, Jeff Garofalo, press pros.
Coach, you mentioned hardest working team, you talked about being top in the past, you mentioned it today. What are your list of characteristics of a guy, or the check boxes a guy has to check to say he's tough, he's going to be the hardest working guy?
Well, it kind of goes like, we've been saying it where, everyone talks about talent, but talent's God given. Nobody earned their talent. It's discipline and skill. And when you're talking about toughness and you're talking about, first off, being tough is being physically tough, like going and lining somebody up and knocking them off the wall. Another part of being tough is being resilient. When the play doesn't go well, be able to put that behind you and move on to the next play. Being tough is being able to sustain throughout a whole game and wearing someone down and beating them up in the fourth quarter. Like those are all signs of toughness. But there's so much more that comes with that part of it. You talk about effort, you talk about attitude, you talk about focus. All the things that take no talent, the things that we're really focusing on. And then you have the skill part, the skill of being the best D-lineman in America. What comes with that? Well, you got to have great hand combat. You got to be able to get off the blocks. You got to be able to have great pad level. Those are all the things that you learn playing your position. So those areas that we're focusing on are discipline, which is the no talent issues, and the skills to do your job. And we really spent some time as a staff making sure that we're saying the right things, the same things that we're teaching special teams, the same thing the coaches are going to be coaching in their meetings. And if we can do that, then, we can maximize our talent.
Front row left, Jake Trotter, ESPN.
Yeah, Ryan, especially with the guys that decided to come back, how do you feel about the leadership in the locker room? You were asked about urgency earlier. Off that, what sense of urgency are you getting from them going into the season?
Yeah, a lot of urgency, a lot of leadership, but you know what? I'm sure most coaches in America would say that right now. It's day one. We'll find out when the real bullets start flying, but I can't only go off what I've seen. And I've seen guys holding guys accountable all summer. Someone wasn't behind the line, they didn't go +2, calling them out, bringing it back. There's a reason why guys came back this year. You heard a couple guys on our team talk about the expectations. We're not going to talk about that anymore, but there's a reason they came back. It wasn't not to reach our goals. That's just the truth. So, I think it's there, but we'll find out. We'll find out what this foundation looks like as we get into the season and get some of those storms that are coming our way. They're coming, and we got to be ready to go. So, the beginning of the season, everybody's excited. Everybody thinks they have a great summer. Everybody thinks they have great leadership, but the truth is, you won't know until you get down the road. That being said, I feel like we're building that foundation strong right now, but we're going to push, and we know that we can't waste any moment.
Fourth row middle, Andy Baxter, 11th row.
Ryan, we saw a lot of Jermaine Matthews last year, but on the outside corner, saw him a lot today in the nickel. What do you guys like about him, that inside spot?
Well, he has quickness, he has twitch, and he's competitive. And that's a guy who, again, has a lot of talent. He's got to continue to build discipline in his life. Very important. And he can be a contributor. You see the talent there. He's got to have a good preseason for us, but the talent is definitely there.
Deep right field, Jeremy Birmingham, the podcast, dot the i's.
Brian, 2 years ago, you guys opened the season with Notre Dame. You skipped having a late July recruiting event last year, and you did not have a marquee game at the start of the year, so you had one. What went into not having that sort of event this year, and how much discussion is there about that moving forward as being a consistent thing?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit, but we went 4 weekends in June, and our staff, and they didn't have a day off in the month of June, and I just felt like it was the right thing to do. I feel like where we are in recruiting right now is strong, but the wives were there every weekend and during the week. We had in-week visits. We really busted our tail in June, and I think right now it's showing where we're at right now, but I just felt like it took 4 weekends away from everybody in June, and I felt like it was a good opportunity to get away a little bit and get a 3-day weekend. We did that, came back refreshed, and we'll reassess it every year.
Front row, Bill Midland, Columbus Dispatch.
Well, Howard, you asked him, really asking you like Kevin, look at last year,
Oh yeah. That started right when we first got here. We got Kayla Olson involved and Mick and everybody we could. We had the opportunity to use DEXA scans here to get an idea of their body fat and their makeup and their lean mass, and you got challenged. And it's one thing to put on weight, take off weight, but when you're talking about body fat and lean mass and those type of things, you'll just see him. He looks different. He's moving different. And he worked hard on that, changed his diet, changed his workout plan, and dedicated himself to the offseason. And I think you're seeing that right now. Now he's got to sustain that throughout the season. But I forget exactly what he weighed in at today, but he's moving well for his size. I don't. I'll get it for you the next time. I'll have it because I know Kayla has all those types of things. But he certainly, lost some weight, but then put on some good weight and showed it.
All right, Tim May, the Tim May podcast.
Taker Chabot, get back to him. There's a guy that middle left, we found that one of those, say, water down the hill, finds the easiest path, he could have gone that route. What does he tell you about his dedication? He doesn't want to take this mark here. And I know that you still got to go out and field tickets.
Yeah.
But what does it just tell you about what's driving him?
Yeah, I mean, he wants to be here. He wants to be a contributor to Ohio State, and that does matter. Like you said, I mean, there's other places he could have gone and tried different avenues, but he stuck with it, and it's going to pay off for him. It will if he just continues to get better and continue to show discipline and consistency. But we're excited about what he did this offseason. He pushed through that. He's going to have every opportunity to go become a major contributor on offense.
And one other quick about Will Howard. Do you see him being even more accurate than maybe he showed up here from the aspect of throwing the football and stuff?
just when we watched him today, what just happened in that regard?
Yes. Yeah, I did notice that. I thought there was more zip on the ball, and I thought there was more accuracy today. For day one, I did notice that. Again, day one, what are you going to do with day one? But I thought the ball came out with more pace. I thought he had more discernment, and I thought there was some accurate throws out there.
Then we'll wrap things up. Second row right, Doug Maurice, Kings of the North.
Ryan, when you were talking about Tiger earlier, you said, we know we're gonna wear teams down and win games in the fourth quarter. What is required to be able to do that, and how have you thought about your ability to do that in the last several seasons?
Well, the first thing is you have to practice that way. And that means in preseason, like, we got to wear on each other. We got to force it. We got to make sure that we're, pounding the ball in practice and, sustaining throughout the entire practice and just holding guys accountable. And, we're going to script the right opportunities to do that in practice. We've done that early in the season in some of the games we played. You think about the Notre Dame game a couple of years ago, I thought we did exactly that. We won the game in the fourth quarter in those two games the last 2 years. So I think coming out of preseason camp, we were prepared to do that. Did we do that throughout the entire season, at the end of the season, the last couple of years? No. And so we got to do that this year. We got to make sure that we're sustaining that throughout the season and then playing our best football and wearing teams down in the fourth quarter at the end of the year.
Coach, thank you very much.